Hello and welcome to another episode of the SENDhelp podcast. Today I'm with Leandra and she has a company called Sentipede and I will let her explain about that instead of me explaining about it. But today we're just going to be talking about, again, it's not one thing you can really pin down these conversations to, is there? It's just y- EHCPs, SEN,
Yep.
parent life, have a company in it. Like if there's so many, I'll let Leandra take over and talk about a bit about our company and we'll just go from there, really.
Thanks so much. Yeah, so I'm Leandra Hamlin. I set up Sentipede about 4 years ago. Just a mum who was overwhelmed by the whole situation with regards to my son's diagnosis, not knowing where to start. Lockdown, you name it, it all kicked off. So I just sat down in a coffee shop and invited people to join me, and it kind of grew from there. And really, my page is there to just share information that I come across, whether it be activities, other pages like yourselves, and then just sharing my own story, really, and just being open and honest about it.
Yeah. No, it's good. You've got quite good mother as well. Yeah. It's so this started with a couple. How did you? It's very. I find it very comforting how quickly like you could just make like a community like that. Well, because once you got the people, the people that are going through it, it's we're all kind of going through similar, isn't it? And it's
Yeah,
quite a nice community. I like the same community. I mean, this was very non-toxic in that way, isn't it? It's
yeah.
very,
It's very
yeah,
neutral and it's local mums. So we kind of all know each other through sort of school, but never knew each other. And then we've grown to, we've grown together really, discovering all our children's needs. And it's just nice to know that there's other people locally around you that you can call on whenever. I mean, we've got a WhatsApp group that we chat on. I mean, we talk about anything. I mean, it doesn't have to be send related. And yeah, it's just nice knowing that there's people around you because it is quite isolating if you think about it. And that's what I was finding. I was not going through the school gates because we had to go through the front office. I wasn't speaking to the other parents. We were doing reduced timetables, so I wasn't necessarily there at drop off or pick up time. It was just so sort of
it does
yeah,
it does
isolating.
throw you, doesn't it? I say even me, I noticed that the changes even when it was stopped going to school and like I had one of them in there and then I stopped going 3 days. I was like, I don't even want to go pick him up anymore. Like I just don't, I can't bear it. But it does, it gives you that anxiety, doesn't it? And then when you're doing it from so different as well, you feel left out of, and especially when you think that your child is being thrown about negatively
Yeah,
around the playground or something like that as well. On top of it, it's horrible.
yeah, and basically I had three boys going to this school, and two of them are twins, so you can imagine the chaos. Three boys and multiples, and then they're all runners. Well, not the big one, but the twins are runners, and so yeah, I was mostly running through the playground anyway, rather than being able to stop and chat. So yeah, it was awkward, shall we say.
Yeah. So what let's talk about why you had to create it or why you thought it was a need to create it. So what was going wrong or wasn't going well during your journey of being an SEN parent?
Well, it wasn't a surprise to me that Josh diagnosis was autism and ADHD, but obviously hearing it is hard, and not knowing much about neurodiversity or anything with regards to like mental health or whatever. It kind of scared me a little bit because I didn't know what to
Mhm.
do next, and I didn't know who to talk to about it, and everyone's telling me different stuff, and I'm obviously doing like Google and trying to figure life out. Um, and I just got so overwhelmed to the point that I was like, I just can't do this. I started sort of teaching myself stuff by going on courses and speaking to certain services and things like that. And as I was doing that, I was building more confidence, and I thought, hang on a minute, there's going to be loads of other people going through this. Let's face it, we know the statistics of how many are per school. There must be others out there that I can help, and they're not in the maybe not starting off just yet. And so I'm ahead of the game. I can help them, give them some tips so they're not in the same position, and work together really. So yeah, that's what it was. It was just about sort of getting over the overwhelm and sharing the knowledge. And then it just became so popular that I didn't really have to do much. That word just spread, and it just grew from there, and it's still going quite strong. So it proves that it's still really needed. And
Very needed.
there's
Yeah.
yeah, stuff all over the county. I mean, I'm not the only one. There's loads of us, and we're all trying to do the same thing. So there's a few of us that kind of try and collaborate and things like that because the need is so so strong.
It is. Yeah. I think just even not even, as you said, not even talking about it, sometimes not talking about it is the break that you need, isn't it? Just going
Yeah.
somewhere and having a normal conversation and knowing that if you did have to say something crazy, like I've got to get my kids from school because he's just run away or
Yeah.
something like that, they're going to understand and you're not going to feel like the awful parent that's got to go to run around after, you know what I mean? It's so many, it's really weird how they manage to get us feel so isolated when there's so many of us.
I think it's just that judgment, and everyone's just too scared to talk about anything. So I think when you create the community, you create that environment that it's safe, and
Yeah.
you'll kind of get it. If someone's having a rubbish day, you can openly say it's rubbish and why it's rubbish, and they don't look at you like you've got two heads. So,
Yeah.
I think it's all that validation really is the key. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think it's that different? This is slightly off of it, but like neurotypical life, do you think, because I have this illusion that it is just, I don't want to say easy, completely different
Yeah.
in certain ways. And it just, I suppose if that's how I feel about it, it must be the same as how they feel about it with us,
Yeah.
if
But
that makes sense.
I think
Like
it's
it's
that,
that unknown, isn't it? It's that unknown of the fear, isn't it? And I think even it's blurring it, it's making it too okay, either one okay. I think that's the
yeah.
problem, isn't it? And I think where you don't know so much about his life, it causes a bit of not conflict, but it does cause that divide in the playground or divide
And there's
outside as
assumptions,
well,
isn't
doesn't it?
there? And it's
Yeah,
just that everybody's got their own view on how it looks from the outside, but they don't know what's going on the inside. I think we make a lot of assumptions, but I feel like houses a lot harder. Let's face it. I mean,
yeah,
I can't just go to the shops because
mm,
I've got kids who are going to melt down, or they're going to trash the place, or they're going to run up the security guards looking for my boys, and
mm,
they're hiding under the clothes. I thought they'd run over the main road. It's just been, I've had them sitting on the car roof outside, like Sports Direct, having a meltdown, and I've just had to stand there and everyone looking or laughing. Luckily,
that's
one
horrible. Isn't it?
person said, "Can I help?" And I was like, "No, thanks, but cheers." Um, but you just don't know how to react, and
Yeah,
it's awkward because you're trying to, what's going on with your child, but then you've got society also looking in, and you have that added pressure of getting it right, but the two worlds don't meet. So I think we're kind of always losing battle in some respects until everyone can understand. But how do they
yeah,
understand unless you live it? That's the hardest part.
that's it. Yeah. Well, hopefully we spread and we can spread it so everyone has it. So it's a bit like like zombie films, like when like someone get bitten and about to be turned. It's like that's how they treat send families, isn't it? Like they just be all bitten. But what we really need to do is really get them all bitten so they've got at least one in their family each. And I think that's the only way that it's gonna that lived experience is gonna get through. I mean, there's to a certain degree there is certain stuff you could learn, and I but it's the attempt. I think just the attempt
Mm.
is good enough for now, isn't it? Just
Yeah,
try and understand. Just try and come at our level. Just try and not judge so quickly. You don't have to understand it like at the back of your hand. We don't even understand it, but just
yeah, we
show
make
us
it
the
up.
attempts. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is hard. It's complex, and everyone's different. And I understand, you're not going to know everything about Zen because everyone's an individual and we experience it differently. But there are still core sort of traits, like you say, that we can teach and sort of maybe just open people's eyes up a little bit more and maybe take away those old stigmas that are still hanging around.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have progressed. I don't know about you. In some ways, I think we have. In other ways, I think we haven't. It's depends who you
It's a
talk
weird one,
to,
isn't it?
isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think we as a community and as a voice, we've definitely got better. But I think as a government's got worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But is it because they think we're trying to fight against them, but actually we're just asking for help? And it's been
Yeah.
taken the wrong way. I don't
But
understand why we're having this conflict. Surely, if we were giving people what they need, we wouldn't have situations where we go into crisis. So we would be.
unless that's what they want.
But why would you want that? I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe
It's
it's just me being naive. Like, why would you want to make things harder?
I think as well. I think it's again when it's the opinion, isn't it? If someone doesn't think it's that serious, then it's not that serious. And I think if that's what the higher at the moment, all the people. in that kind of role of thinking, and that's the attitude they've got. I think that's what we're seeing. As in, we could be. They think it's a little problem, but it's actually massive. Like, and it's just a bit of annoyance when because there's no. I think the gap is so big in that sense sometimes that again, some of the things that they say just out of character about real life. Like how they just get confronted about how much is this much and they don't have a clue, let alone what they're thinking about the SEN. So I think as well, there's a big gap between.
Maybe it needs to be a criteria that you have lived experience to be in that
Yeah,
role, like, because otherwise you're never going to understand. Like I said earlier, how will you actually truly understand until you live it? I mean, like everyone understands, having kids is hard, but until you have a kid, you don't realize the sleepless nights
yeah.
and all that. And then add the layer on to multiples, Zen, all of that. Until you, in each of those categories, you have no clue. You have an idea. Yeah. So I think maybe it
Yeah,
needs
because
to
it's not
change.
it's not sucking up mums, is it? It's not sucking up mums and dads first that are like doing like a health secretary for the SEM budget and stuff like that. Are they like they're just people in that job because I don't know how they've got qualifications.
Yeah.
So it's
But
not
theory
necessarily
doesn't
people, and they've
always
got no
work.
advisors either. Yeah, no advisors, nothing to like go on apart from what you think, and that's I think what we're seeing. It's just crazy decisions, and
Yeah.
I want to think it's undeliberate instead of deliberate. I want to
Yeah.
think it's just naivety than it is that they're trying to do this because they're worried about free thinkers and what they can do.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's money, right? So I get that.
Mm.
But if you want to become more efficient, then you're going to have to maybe start again. I don't think you can fix it.
Mm.
It's gone too far.
No,
I think you're going to have to
that's,
scrap it, start again, and obviously have a plan for those that are on the existing journey. But something's got to change. You can't firefight all the time. You're eventually it's gonna break. Well, it is broken.
yeah.
So you're gonna start from the bottom. So I don't know how much more we can say that though. It's like it's not rocket
Yeah.
science really, if you think about it. So if we're seeing it that way, why don't they see it that way?
And also, I think they've already got it. So they keep about this room for a minute. They've got there's alternative provisions and forest schools and stuff popping up all the time. And again, instead of embracing that initiative and making some themselves, they're not. They're leaving it to be private companies and then saying it's too expensive. Like, if you know it works, and literally every parent is dying to go to one of these alternatives, because they are. Why wouldn't you? Every kid would. If you gave that option, every kid would
Yeah,
want to go
my
to
boys
like a
went to
farm,
forest school and
especially a
they
farm one.
thrived. That it was
There we
amazing.
go.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Um, yeah, and people are charging a fortune, and it shouldn't be that way. I mean, it's at the end of the day, we're trying to do the same thing. Why are we charging so much? But I understand you taking on, I think we had this conversation prior to this podcast about, you know, people have to earn a living and, and they're taking on responsibility. So I understand there's going to be costs involved, but I think, yeah, even like the taxi thing, it's extortionate for taxis. I think it's like 80 quid a day or something. I don't know. That's the kind of numbers that I've heard rolling around here in Oxfordshire.
Oh God, it's yeah. No matter about that. That's one of the pain points of their isn't it? I don't know how I feel about it because it's either they're too. I don't know if they're underestimating how many kids we're going to need it
Mm.
before they put it in place and it's just run away with them. Oh, but there's got again because I know why. Before I say it, even know what the problem's going to be. I was going to say why not get like something more efficient, like a bus or something like a school bus or whatever. But then again, it's going to be like the disability bus or something, isn't it? Like that old stereotype. But
Yeah.
realistically, who gets taxis places this day and age? It would be public transport in the sense of like if you don't have a car, it's public transport. So I don't understand why it's not like a minibus or it's not. If there's that many people going on there, surely that would be one cost instead of having to do different
Or
private
pay the
complexities. Private.
school for the minibus, the school's own minibus,
Yeah,
fund that, and then they can do the
and just have
pick up and drop
and
off.
a staff member to go drop them off. That
But then
again, perfect, solved it. Why have they not done that? That's actually silly. That's so silly. Yeah,
we should just run the government, I think. I think that's
yeah,
all
but
we'll
yeah,
have.
yeah,
But also, I can see why some might need it. I mean, there's some of my friends whose kids won't go on public transport or won't even go in a taxi. They will only go with mum. Um, so I can see there's going to be some children that require that, but not everyone needs it. Admittedly, my boys do get a taxi. I'll put it out there. And made a world of difference for my own mental health just because I don't have to run up the road with them, and I don't have to deal with a meltdown. The transition ends at home. Taxi arrives, they go, and actually, it's made everyone's life easier. Even their sort of the way they deal with themselves at school. They're not going in heightened because they're calmer getting to school because we've already said goodbye, and yeah, it's kind of home. It's that black and white thing, isn't it, where it's kind of
Yeah.
home's gone, now we're going to school. So for me, it's been a huge benefit, but I do think it's ridiculous money. I'm not denying that at all. But then on the other hand, I've got my son who's not in education, yet he's still assigned to a taxi. Are they paying for it every day? I don't know. Like, how does that work? It just seems absolutely daft.
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I said. My argument would be that you couldn't sustain it long term with taxis because you could never do it because the need is always going to be so much higher. So when it's half the class in each class having to need to get taxis, you're going to have again, the school method that works perfectly. Every school go out and go get them in the
Yeah.
morning, do a little run. They know the same time, gets picked up roughly. Do you
Yeah.
know, that's
To build that
efficient.
rapport. It's familiar.
Also, the problem again is you sound like you've got really good taxi service, but I've heard really if it's just off the
Yeah.
sometimes the training questions, if there's any training, or if it's just a random person who's going to get in the taxi.
Mine hasn't been great until recently. So when we first got it, firstly, we got denied one of the twins. So I was like, okay, so you're coming to my house anyway to pick up one of my kids, and they're going to the same school, yet you're denying the other one. That makes sense. So you're expecting me to literally like drive along the taxi and go, hi, and drop the other one off. Eventually got that agreed. And then they never sent a chaperone for like 2 weeks. So I got in contact. I'm like, hello, this is a safeguarding, not just for my kids, but for you guys. Like, what happens if they have a meltdown? How are you going to manage that? And then they just, the next day, suddenly there's somebody, but no people skills whatsoever. So of course, one of my boys is like, I'm not going into school. So I had literally a whole term where I was taking one of them in because he was refusing. Now that we've got the right people on board, it's working brilliantly, and it proves the point. It's all about like that relationship and being in the right environment. But my understanding is that they don't get the training. So again,
No,
they're sending
and again,
people who aren't.
yeah, and again, they I don't think a lot of them have any idea kind of what they're not what they're doing, but like the risk that they're in, even accepting a job without a chaperone. Again, as you said, I would say it's more for them anyway, like having a chaperone, because it stops any allegation, it stops any behaviour, it just covers it, and you've also then don't have to have the relationship. So someone's trained with the chaperone, then that you don't have to have the experience. You can just be the driver, but you can't just keep throwing people that they keep doing that have not got training into this fire and expecting it to work. It's not going to work.
But I don't understand. Like, if it was to kick off, what would that person be able to do? Because
what would happen?
be
Probably they will get in trouble. It'll be the private company. I guarantee it, because that's a bit why I can see why the government do this so much, because they're still wary about how much it heats on it. So it will be all the private company. So he'll have no training, or she have no training, and this is what happened. They'll deal with it wrong, and then they'll get fired, and they'll get in trouble for it, and they'll get switched off.
Yeah, that's just. And then I think
it's just almost like parents might parents sort of then will jump on that like it's his fault, like, or her fault, and it's almost like that's unfair. If you really knew the risk and really knew that that's okay, that's one child, and you're talking about yours. What if they've got another two in there? You don't know what's happened. And if you're driving anyway and an incident happens, it's always an emergency situation.
Yeah.
And what would you do in that situation with your kid and two other kids in that situation? I bet it probably wasn't better. It might have been. Like, do you know what I mean? What are you meant to do? I mean, there is some ones that are just horrific anyway, but on a whole, it's just setting people up to fail.
Yeah, it's horrendous. It really is. And we were getting different drivers and all sorts. There was like no consistency. Not until I literally was complaining, and we had a full-on conversation with the taxi firm, and we built that relationship up. Now it's fantastic. I mean, touch wood so far anyway. But I've heard horrendous stories, and even the first term, it was awful. It seems like this year's been the worst out of many years for the taxi services. No one knowing what's going on, who you're with, are you still with the same one, have you changed? There's no communication. That's the thing. I think.
Yeah, because they're in private companies, that's it. Yeah. They haven't got a hub. It's just random local private companies that might cross over and work across yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And it's a problem they've created. So it's not like parents have gone, oh, I don't want to go to school because it's too far. It's they've gone to a school that's regular, it's not suited. And then the council have said you can only go to this school 500 miles
Exactly.
away.
Like, it's not our
And
choice.
they said, but don't worry, we'll pay for a taxi. And that's what I say. It was underestimated that they had to do that so many
Yeah,
times. And it's
exactly.
almost like you can see it now because it's scatty as hell. There's just people just ready to come. Yeah, it's costing them a fortune.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. So yeah, anyway, yeah, but it's so far so good with the twins. They've gone into specialists. They're in year 4 now. Last year was absolutely horrendous, like crisis. Yeah, I used the word crisis and relentless, and I couldn't see out. The behavior was constantly heightened. We were having physical, towards parents, and just outbursts. We were having to leave places. We were being asked to leave. It was just, yeah, it was just out of control. And we were still waiting and waiting and waiting until I just kept pushing, pushing, pushing. And eventually they obviously must have got fed up, and pushed me higher up. And now they see us as a family, which I think is fantastic. So I see one doctor at CAMS, and he deals with all 3 of the boys, knows all their medication, knows all the history, and we've got a good, working relationship, which again, everyone talks about CAMS quite negatively. Yes, it's shocking, but once you're in there, if you find the right one, it can make a huge difference. So I'm very lucky in that sense, but it took a lot of fighting. I mean, I had 2 I would say 2 burnouts over the last couple of years getting there.
I mean, I'm not surprised. Far too common, isn't it, that we're having to push ourselves to that point
Yeah.
of fighting just to be heard, and even the guilt that comes with that, because you're like, that other parents are fighting, and I kind of feel guilty. Like I was like, when you kind of get it, you're like, oh, but what about everybody else? And it's almost like
Yeah.
it's never it's just like they make it like we're crabs in a bucket, isn't it? Trying to get the support, and it's almost like it's just crazy that it's almost like they're sitting there waiting for that and saying who's gonna beg us the most, and then we'll pick them up, isn't it? And it's almost like they're sitting there like really misogynistic, just sitting there going, "Oh God, who's gonna complain the most?" Or it reaches a threshold when they're like, "Oh, they're gonna do something about it. We need to get them in quick."
Yeah.
But there's definitely like a period of ignorance, I
Mm.
think, of these requests and playing down and not taking them. It doesn't go through a process. They don't. They don't.
What I would like to see, because I asked this exact question when I was going through that sort of phase, was what do they class as crisis? What is their definition? Because to me, a crisis is when everything is not in a good place and you're having children wanting to hurt others. You're having them running away. You're having suspensions, a risk of exclusions. You're having to kind of literally shut everything down. We couldn't go anywhere. We had no after school activities. No, it was literally home. That's it. We were so isolated, but they needed to burn energy at the same time. I was going through emails, phone calls. I was just going around in circles. No one was taking responsibility or accountability for anything. It was all on me. And I was like, I actually cannot do this anymore. Like, I've been trying so much. I'm not going to come and ask you for help if I don't need help. I'm here because I'm desperate. Like, why do we have to get to that point before we get help? And I'm hearing of stories of other people whose children are self-harming, but that's still not enough. So what
Yeah.
isn't, is it actual a tragedy?
Well, it is, and it's scary that it's become blurred into mental health now. And it's like, like, so there's always that on mental health concerns, especially for adults. It was almost like they only took you seriously when you was doing something or actively about to do
Yeah.
something. And it's almost like that's now blurred into ADHD and autism assessments and treatment and stuff like that. And it's almost like, but as you're saying, I've heard quite a lot uncomfortable amount
Yeah.
of young children, and it doesn't seem that they're doing anything about it. Like it's
Mm.
very, very, I, they don't. What I say when they're so young and the young as I'm hearing, it's not a phase, and it's not. You take social media, you take pressure, you take a fad out of it, because no kid should know or know how to say that unless they're feeling it. Yeah, I had my. And do you know the thing is, it's so long and winded. My 5-year-old son was a good sitter. I don't know what to put film on. 2 minutes after, they walked away. And I was like, they're never going to watch a film these days. I forget that kids only watch shorts.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, they
and you can
just
put a full length, an hour and a half in front of them, and they're like, "What is? I'm not doing this."
yeah.
Like, they just can't do it. Like, they really can't. But
No,
no, yeah, God, that's a bit of a, that's,
he's only 8, so and he's yeah.
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I can see you having nightmares. I don't even know what the age restriction is on Godzilla, if I'm honest, but I don't
I
think
think
it's
they've
you
got like there's a universe of it. So I underestimated how many there is. There's so many films.
really. Don't tell me.
Yeah, there's a whole
Don't tell me.
universe they've created off it. Yeah, but like again, they're different ages and they're different. It's so you couldn't even watch all of them or anything. I think that 12 might be the lowest, but then they go up to like nearly 18. I think. Yeah,
I'll be having him creeping in. Well, he does anyway, but probably with nightmares. So yeah. Anyway, we'll
yeah,
move on to that. We'll get him focused on something else.
yeah,
Redirect. But yeah,
yeah,
I feel, and I'm not confident in saying this, but I feel like my boys do have traits of PDA, and I often find myself like now I realized I said no, and sometimes it can go either way depending on what frame of mind they're in. Um, but I mean, what are your thoughts on PDA, and are you hearing a lot about that out your way? Because I mean, PDA seems to
yeah.
be quite
They
strong.
won't diagnose it very
No,
easily down here.
that's it.
Yeah.
No.
I see. I've got my views on PDA are mixed. I think because I think it's still massively misunderstood, but I think people confuse ODD and PDA
Well,
quite
I
often.
don't understand the difference. So I
Yeah,
have had someone explain it to me, and it kind of makes sense, but I still don't know how to unpick it because it's all internal, right? So how am I supposed to know as a
yeah.
person on the
So
outside?
with ADHD, you're like something like after you get diagnosed with ADHD, you're only 2 symptoms away from getting a diagnosis of ODD. So with an ADHD diagnosis, I'd say that it ought to be traits of ODD. PDA is it, on it on an extreme level, like so it's not non-verbal, it's a complete lack of being able to put pressure on yourself.
Yeah,
So if someone asks you to do something, it's overwhelming. It's met with a negative response. Yes, it can
yeah,
be similar to ODD with the no, I'm not doing it, or I don't do it,
exactly.
or
Yeah,
the thingy. But it's more that so I've got all that pressure, I've got to perform. You've got it's almost the crippling anxiety of having to do the things. So
yeah,
they avoid any task and avoid avoid having to being asked to do stuff. So it's almost like you have to, and PDA is very tricky and very hard because you have to kind of unlearn your language
yeah,
and relearn it again
yeah. It's like
because it's
definitely,
very easily like a slight little normal response that no, we're not doing it right now. It can set it off. Or,
yeah,
but then again, that's a confusion. If you're asking to do something, PDA is more of like an ask. So I'd see it. Like that's
yeah,
I'd say like so a PDA. Oh, can you get in the bath or can you do this or something like that? Oh, can you that? And they go to meltdown. So that'd be more the thing. ODD is more like the no. It's a refusal to just can you like just but it's just like pushing that
yeah,
I know. And I think that's a whole, from my point of view, it's like a reflection of anxiety. So it's your sense of control about what you do. Because again, with ODD and ADHD, you get told, sit still, you're not doing this right, you're not doing this right. So that's your only form of everything else is up to you. And it's the only thing you've got left. And it's so quick and so inbuilt in you. It's not a deliberate response. It's not.
yeah,
It's just, it's almost like it gets you back up by someone saying to you, do this, and you're like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that, and it's resistance. Like, but you don't understand why. And but to sit there together,
yeah. This is, I mean, I get confused because it's like it all sounds like it leads from anxiety because and control.
yes,
You need the control to lower the anxiety. So it all kind of sounds the same, but I still cannot fathom the difference. And I'm hearing a lot of people say it's got PDA traits, and I'm thinking, is it PDA or is it ODD? I don't. I'm genuinely asking. I have
mm,
no idea, and I've had people explain. I'm like a clinicians and everything explain to me, and I still don't quite fully understand it. And I can imagine if you have someone who struggles with like full on PDA, that your life is very hard. Yeah. So I say
yeah, yeah,
traits rather than PDA, like full stop, because I'm not sure, but they do have a lot of what I see as potentially PDA.
It's a weird one, isn't it? I think it will change. I think it's one of them diagnoses that's probably going to blur into one, ODD and the PDA, and have a profile that would
Yeah,
make more sense because they're so similar. And of course, but I don't know.
it's
It,
so
of course,
confusing.
no, but that
Yeah,
it is it's very confusing. And do you know what's even more confusing? Having it, I've got it diagnosed, and it's still like I don't understand. What do you mean? I just defy to the opposite defiance. When you think you mature out of it, and I think to a certain degree you do. And I think again that's why I related to anxiety. Wherever your anxiety is going, and why all that's going to be present. And I think the same with PDA. I think there is a level that you can get to being able to do all these tasks and do all these things
yeah,
quite safely. And I think when something goes wrong, that's when it escalates and you have to go back on yourself and stop
yeah,
with, because I think, again, it's anxiety based, but it's another thing that is just thrown about without any, like the diagnosis of ADHD and autism, without any information, without any, oh, this is what you need to do about it. And
yeah.
schools, I
Believe
don't
it.
know if the schools just know it's not going to get diagnosed and it's something that's going to hold it up. And they know that, I don't know if schools just see that as a kid refusing to do something that they're going to struggle with.
Yeah, because there's a
You know,
lot of
just like
schools that don't like that terminology being on that EHCP. As soon as they see
they
that, they're
don't
like,
want, they
no.
won't have it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, well, so where do these children go? They're probably all home
Well,
educated,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's another
That's it.
level. That's another thing to look into. It's just, oh man, it's just like webs everywhere. You can't undo
It
it.
is. It's just connected. You start with one and you end up with like six by the end of it. And you make up a new one and they change the name for that one. And then that one means this one now. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, but I
It's not
think
that
at the same time, really fascinating.
and it's one of them ones again that it's so in professional hands that there's probably no real studies on people just on that element. Like, I think there's still people that would have ADHD and there's people that have autism, but maybe more the PDA, but specifically just for that, is there how much research is there on first hand on that? Like
Yeah.
not just what you think and you're theorizing from what you're putting together for what the brain thinks and why they do it. Have you not asked the people what actually is it like?
Yeah. Well, I did some sort of, well, not me personally, my friend actually ran an event with the Oxford University and their research department. And I was lucky enough, to be invited to that. Um, and I must say the researchers that were there, they seemed to be on board and really starting to understand and wanting to listen and taking everything on board. But again, it's going to take time, isn't it, to filter down. And it might be that maybe the ones in Oxford are doing it, but someone else somewhere, in a different area isn't quite thinking in the same way. But yeah, I think research is still, yeah, it's it's a big topic. It's still very misunderstood, but I think they are trying to understand it from our perspective, and
Mm.
they are starting to listen. And a lot of researchers tend to be, on the spectrum of some sort themselves now as well, which I think is quite nice because then they can relate more. Um, but yeah, I felt quite positive coming out of that event that we had recently. It did feel like we were kind of collaborating more, but it would be nice to see more research, you know, around everywhere and advertising it a
Yeah.
bit more. You kind of just hear about research this, research that, and you think, but who's going to these things? Like, uh, who are you talking to?
From a professional point of view, there is a worry that I do have with the PDA diagnosis and because of the misunderstanding of it. And I have seen that being said, and sorry, I think my kid's crying.
You want to go check?
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it. Yes,
pause it, pause
that's
it.
it. Oh, it's right. She got it. Yeah, he's got a spinny thing in front of his chair. And I think he's caught his finger on the way round.
Oh no.
Yeah. That's always a good one. I know it sounds bad, but the accident, I thought, like he said, it was behavioural. I was thinking, oh God, what's happened? Like,
Yeah,
what could have happened? I was thinking in my head, what could have pissed him off like that?
yeah. Like what could be
But look,
anything.
see, look how real this has been, this podcast.
You got mine coming in. You got yours.
That's
Interesting.
it. I've got my falling, sliding myself around the
You want
bedroom.
anything else? I can bring them in.
That's it.
I can add the dog if you like.
Oh,
Honestly, my house is
no,
chaos.
yeah. What the worry that I have with PDA is that without the understanding, a lot of parents, I think, then see that as a reason not to then even push or try. Not try, but it's very hard to then. It's like, well, what do I do? So if I can't say no and I can't take everything, and then it ends up without the training, you end up in a very vulnerable position where you've given a kid that anxious control of everything, and that's the danger because when they say PDA, if you look at PDA needs to be managed. It's not something you just give into because effectively, but that's not effective. So you want it to be, you understand it's there, you understand to work with it, like you would with ADHD and in the future, if you do, like sort of, but without the understanding and the training after throwing around something like PDA, what are parents meant to think? Because it's again with physical behaviours, and then you're saying, well, you can't actually say that because it's gonna make them work, and you're like, well, you haven't told me, what do I do? Like it's just almost like panic mode, then, isn't it? And then
Well,
with that,
yeah.
without the intervention, how then? Do you know what? It's so hard. One of the hardest behaviours to ever change is when that's happened. When a child has been really anxious in a really hard time and they're taking control of the house in a certain type of way with the routines, with the behaviour, with the who can come in, with the I've even heard about people together that can't be together, that they're separated houses, like that kind of level of control. And I feel bad for the parents because it's not their fault. If they hear that and you don't have any idea and you're already getting physical behaviour at home and you're like, now I can't even tell them off or say
Well,
no,
I'll
you're
say I was
trapped.
in something similar, so not PDA related as such, but more. So we were in that crisis moment, and I actually mashed myself, as in to get the support. I
Mhm.
was like, I don't know what else to do other than like it's getting violent here, and I don't know what to do anymore. And so we got a early help or social worker, whatever. I can never remember what their job roles are because they keep changing. But I even said to the guy helping, you know, like what? I'm too scared to do anything. Like I
Mm.
can't do right for wrong. Like you, if I'm being attacked, obviously your natural instinct is to stop the person hurting you. I said, but you can't because then it's looking like restraint or they might get a mark and then it looks like you're abusing it. And it's like, you're too scared to do anything. So it's like,
Yeah,
it's
and that leaves
actually
you in such a
acceptable.
vulnerable position, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
What
Especially when you've got like
the
when
advice
you've
I
got
was
like a,
given really was, it's almost like you've got to outweigh the situation. So like if your kid's going to run into the road and you grab them by the shirt, then that's acceptable because, the outcome is he's safe. He might have a bit of a sore neck, but he's not being knocked over. That's kind of the advice I was given. You got to kind of use your common sense essentially. But I think we're too scared to. We just because you can't do
yeah,
this, you can't do that. Um,
it's a mindful. This is like I've really worked heavily in challenge behavior in this sort of stuff, and it is very very hard because they forget that they adapt to what you put in place.
yeah.
If that makes sense. So like my headphones just come off.
So where you left the room,
Another
maybe.
blunder. Yeah, I think so.
There we are.
There we are. I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
so when of it's hard because the advice it differs. It's going to be different compared to each incident, isn't it? And that's the hardest. That's the hardest bit about it is there's no one rule. And what happens is you start one method and that might not work. It might take 6 months of different methods, and then even by that time, it's almost feel like you've given up. But it's so hard to even explain how hard of a situation that is, isn't it? Yeah.
implementing something is the hardest thing. And what I find in our own household, it might not be everywhere, but even my husband and I have different views on how to parent. Um, but who's who's right, who's wrong, whose method do you try, how long do you give it, and if you're doing one method and the other's doing the other method, they're getting mixed signals. How are you supposed to get beyond that? Never mind, society. So yeah, it's hard, especially when you're the one that's, so in my case, I'm the one that's sort of going on the courses, attending the meetings, doing all that kind of thing, the advocating essentially. So I'm building all this knowledge and I'm getting all these tips and I'm trying them. But then my partner's saying, why are you doing that? You're just giving in or you're not doing this or you're not. And then I'm like, yeah, but you can't do that and you can't. So we're kind of then debating how to parent our children. So the children are going to be so confused because they don't know what's right or wrong. Neither do we clearly. So yeah, how do you
I mean,
parent?
yeah, the level of training that I had to do with the job that especially the one where I talk about in the school, it really challenging behaviour, and the amount of training that you had all the time. So you'd have it constant oversight, 7 people. Like to do it efficiently, it's safe, and you're expecting parents to do it on their own. Like it's not even if you're professionally trained, and again, that restraints are very taboo in a sense because I don't think that most of the time they don't help. Again, it's
Yeah,
emergency
escalate
situations. You
to
can't
one
the
thing.
restraints are calm No, but to
Yeah,
restrain in a situation again to stop someone hurting someone else, of course, like you have
yeah,
to. And
yeah,
again, that's kind of what they say. It's environmental damage is always better than actual physical damage. So if you can, put yourself out of the right way and let them do everything else. But
yeah,
again, the first tactic back from that is okay, I'm going to hurt myself. So then you
yeah.
come out. So it's again, it's a constant game of trying to. People forget like it's not static. That they're going to stay or not get older, or it's not going to change behaviour, or meds are not going to come into effect, or it's just a constant you have
Hormones.
to be oh god, it's so hard. Yeah, you can't even describe how hard that would be. Even with all the training in the world, you would still be getting it wrong and still be
Yeah.
on your knees. Yeah,
And then if you've got 3 children who have different traits, again, how
yeah,
do you manage the 3 different that's my biggest problem is our dynamics. How do you get 3 children who have different needs to agree on anything, and then you've got your own needs, and you're all triggering each other? Of course, it's going to go, it's not going to be a pretty sight some days. And I suppose we also need to remember to give ourselves grace because I'm very hard on myself, like really bad because I raised my voice or that kind of thing. And then I'm adding the guilt, and then I'm going through my RSD, sort of, tearing apart the whole situation, and it's all my fault. But then I look back at like where we've come and how much support I've put in place. I should really be proud of myself, and I am, but the guilt overrides that.
yeah. It's
So,
adrenaline system, isn't it? Of what it's just because I don't think we ever get satisfied
yeah,
at all, do we? So I don't think we don't we get. I don't think
yeah.
that
Well,
because there's
there's
this
no
the
manual,
support
is there?
is never there in place. It's hard to go. Oh,
Yeah, it's never
is
going to
it?
be enough. Oh,
Wait, hang on. I think he's broke his finger. Actually, not gonna.
really?
One sec.
Yeah, yeah. Carry
Is
on.
it?
Hello. Is it broken?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, you better get off then.
Um, but that was mad. I'm definitely going to leave that because that's a crazy level of events. And I'm hoping as well because I did hear the bang. I'm hoping you picked the bang up as well. So I could actually hear the bang of him coming off of it. And I was like, what was that? And then I heard nothing. Then I heard crying, and I was like, what's that?
Yeah, I
But like,
didn't really hear it, but then I had my own background going on, so maybe
yeah,
you'll probably hear mine going crazy down there because I heard things. I thought, oh God, I think it's going to escalate in a minute. So yeah, if you got that on there, keep it real. Just leave it on.
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, this is the real life. That's what
Yeah, this
happens.
is it.
But
This is what happens.
I don't know. I don't know. The problem is, it's the same with any person with ADHD. Sitting in A&E is probably the worst thing in the world. Whether you're going to take that jump, and depending on the pain, and then that's going to be the next 2 hours of whether it hurts, but I don't want to go to hospital. It hurts, but I don't want to go to hospital.
Even just attending to him and yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, what I'm gonna do now is take him to the pharmacy, get the straps up,
yeah.
and just put that in there and see what happens.
Does he have a hospital passport?
He still started school. What the hell?
I know. First day. Oh God. Yeah. See, even if you get something in place, something else happens. This is what happens. This is real life.
I know.
You
But I
can't
mean,
write
because
it. You can't
a
write it.
neurotypical kid, I'm sure, would not be spinning a million miles per hour in his room on a little spinny thing. They're just to regulate to do it in the first place. Even the whole way is just a
Brandon.
typical way of.
Well, at least you got evidence. You were recording. You were nowhere to be
No,
seen.
that's
It
it.
was,
Yeah, I sent it into the school. Be like, it wasn't me. I
yeah,
promise.
it wasn't me. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
chatting.
Oh no, but yeah, I'm happy. We'll do another one. We'll do another one anyway. Anyway, but this one was great. Anyway, I think we got a lot, at least over half an hour of it. Anyway,
Yeah,
I've got a bit of editing to do, but that's fine.
yeah. Um,
Yeah, it's up to that. And yeah, that was the weirdest ending. Yeah.
well,
There you go. I'm always going to remember this one.
it's
Remember,
for real. It's for real.
that's
This is
it.
like,
Yeah.
well, let me know how it goes. Let me know if he
I will. I will.
manages and if it is actually broken or maybe it's just badly bruised.
Please be badly bruised. This is what I mean. I just can't. It's just so much effort
Does he
now
feel,
having broken hand.
yeah, but does he feel things quite intensely? Like, is he one of those that's like really like feels things?
That's what I mean. I'm waiting. If we give it an hour or two, then we can really judge.
Yeah.
But it
Goodness.
does look weird. The thing is, I went in there and it looked a bit off, and I was thinking, oh, but then I
Yeah.
was like, there's no, I don't know. And then I'm like, I don't want to make the judgment because
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor. And if he's broken and I send him to school tomorrow, I'm going to feel awful
Can he move it like at all?
a little bit. But then again, that's what I'm saying because he's in so much pain.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah, he'll probably send you for an X-ray, won't it?
yeah, it's going to be X-ray business.
Yeah. Good luck. Let me know.
Well, yeah,
I look forward to hearing this.
yeah, yeah. Then let's see how this goes. Let's see how this
Yeah.
turns out.
Right. Well,
Yes.
thanks so much.
That's all right. No worries. Thank you very
Take
much.
care. Bye.